live from the Average Joe Nation studios in St. Clair, Missouri. This is the Average Joe Podcast, a show that proves that in this crazy world, a combination of common sense and a C-plus average is actually a superpower. Sure, he's crazy, but what if he's right? Please welcome your host, Damon Gilbert.
My wife came to me last night, and I've been talking about this for years, so naturally this is no surprise to her. She's heard this for years and years and years and years. My thoughts on the world. She has no choice. She's right here, right? So I got to bounce it off her. She's my best friend, basically. She's my, it worked out really well. So anyway, I've been raising Cain, just like I have here on my podcast for years. And she's actually the one that told me, you should start your own podcast and quit yelling at the TV. And another brilliant idea. I got to hand it to her. She's had several. But in this case, it was kind of funny because I just don't watch any network television of any kind. I may occasionally run across it, but I mean, once the commercials start and all the nonsense and the scam artists and all, I just can't do it anymore. I just don't watch any network television. Most of mine is either streamed or YouTube or whatever, or online, whatever. But the thing was, I'm not a big fan of NBC or MSNBC or any of its affiliates. Always have been. I cannot stand Lester Holt. Okay, he's the guy that does the evening news. Can't stand him. Can't stand him at all. Despise the man. He may be a nice person, but the part he plays on NBC, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. They lie about everything. They do. They make it up. It's all nonsense. But anyway, at the end of the day, I've been saying this for years. Yeah, my wife last night, I thought it was so funny. She came. I was down watching something else on YouTube, and she likes to watch the local news. A lot of people do. Yeah, for the news, for the sports, for the weather, for local stories, that kind of thing. And that comes on at 5 here in Missouri, 5 o'clock, and then at 5:30, the national news comes on. So she leaves it on channel 5, which is NBC affiliate. And I guess yesterday at about 5:40, she came walking out of the bedroom upstairs and said, "I've had about enough of Lester Holt." And I had to laugh. I said, "Oh, so you're finally jumping on board?" She goes, "Yeah." She says, "You're right." She said, "He lies about everything." She said, "I've had it with him. I can't listen to him anymore." And I thought, yeah, I'm right about some things occasionally. I really am. But she's been indoctrinated, so don't let that kid you. It's not like I'm some kind of prophet walking around here. She's heard it so many times. But anyway, the story was about Ukraine, of course, Ukraine, the thing we have to talk about endlessly. And I thought it was interesting because it appears now, after, a month of this? Yeah, almost a month of fighting. Well, no, it was actually 2 months. 2 months of fighting, that things are starting to change. They're getting ready to drastically change in the next week, I guess. This is going to be a pretty important week for the special military operation that Russia had in Ukraine. It's going to focus on Donbas, which is a breakaway province of Ukraine that is basically, I guess, 90% Russians. And that was one of the things that Putin was interested in. That's one of the main things he said when this all started back in 2015, I guess, is when he said, look, he said, we've got people in these two breakaway republics that are all Russian. They speak Russian. They have a Russian culture, and they are suddenly being attacked by Ukrainian forces. They're being shelled on a regular basis, shot at, taken advantage of. And he said, I've had it with this. And Donbas really is the main focus of this, as well as what Putin wants is NATO to go away. He does not want Ukraine in NATO. He does not want an armed Ukraine on his border. That's it. That's basically it. That's all. He wants to halt NATO's eastern expansion. Okay? He wants them to permanently freeze on expansion of military infrastructure, okay, in the former Soviet territory. I couldn't agree more. It'd be like China buying up Mexico and putting nuclear weapons right on the Rio Grande. We wouldn't like that. We wouldn't. Okay? He wants the end of military assistance to Ukraine. That's all he's asking. He's got about four or five different things that he wants. And he wants a ban on intermediate range missiles in Europe. Now that's asking quite a bit there. I will say that. He's probably not going to get that. Okay? But this whole story about and I hate to go on and on about Ukraine because I know it's kind of boring at times, but it's amazing what people don't know. Let's just say that. It's amazing what people don't know, what they're not being told. And I drag Lester Holt into this because they're the ones that are responsible for telling you the truth, or at least some version of it. I'm not saying you got to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is they at least should give you some facsimile of the truth. But they're not doing that. What were they showing last night? My wife said, she said they were showing Ukrainian women crying over their dead families or whatever. And they were blaming it on the Russians, which it's possible that happened, but it's also possible that the Ukrainians did it themselves so that it would be on national television. So, like I said, it's amazing what people don't know. I was talking to my father today, and the subject of this came up. Now, mind you, he's 85 years old. He gets all of his information from NPR and the Post-Dispatch, which is our one and only newspaper in St. Louis. And they're all left leaning. They portray a certain, they put out a certain vibe, and it's left. It's that simple. So he doesn't look very much further than that. He listens to NPR all the time, and he had no idea what I was talking about when I talked about the Azov battalion, the Nazis that are working for the Ukrainians, and he didn't know that. Now I find that amazing, and I said yesterday that the mainstream media is responsible for all the ills in the world right now. And I stand by that because my father, who is very well read, it's not like he doesn't know anything, but you would think that if he reads a newspaper on a daily basis, and I mean religiously, he listens to NPR religiously. He's a big PBS fan. I mean, he donates to him. You would have thought that somewhere along the line, somebody would have mentioned the Azov battalion. This group of probably 70, 80,000 actual Nazis that are in the Ukrainian army. Now, mind you, the Ukrainian army is the only army on the face of the planet that has actual Nazis in. They have their own battalion. That's the only one that does that. The only one that does that. Now, my father didn't know anything about that. He also didn't know anything about Victoria Nuland. She is I think, Deputy Secretary of the National Security Advisor. She is the one who started this whole thing in 2014. She is a war hawk big time, and I mean a war hawk like you've never seen. She is invested in the military-industrial complex. Her and her family, her husband and her, are invested heavily in this. She worked for the Clinton administration. She worked for the Obama administration, and in 2014, she was down handing out cookies during the coup of 2014 in Kiev, in Ukraine, when they took out a democratically elected president and installed their guy. She was handing out cookies to the Nazis, the people in the Azov battalion. That's who this is. My father had no idea about this. He had no idea about. He just didn't, and it's not his fault. I'm not saying that he's silly or stupid or anything like that. That's not true, and that goes for anybody that's listening to this. The point is that this is my thing. This is what I do. I don't watch sports. I don't fish. I don't hunt. I do this. I like to know what's going on in the world. I had a friend of mine call me the other night. Excuse me, and we got to talking, and he said, I like talking to you. He said, because you have an open mind. He said, you're like me. You like to find out about things. You like to look into them. Not go real deep, but go deep enough where you kind of get an idea of what's going on. And I do. I do. I've always been like that. You can tell me the wildest story, and I will not dismiss it. We could be having a conversation in a bar, and you could say something was so crazy. Let's say, for instance, you're a Scientologist, and you would start talking about Scientology. Now, I'm not going to tell you you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. Maybe you're a Mormon, and you want to talk about religion or whatever. I have no problem with that. You want to talk about religion? I will listen to this. Same thing with Scientology. Same thing with if you're a lefty and you believe that abortion should be illegal. That's fine. I'll talk about it. I will not call you crazy. I just won't do it. I want to hear your side of the story. I really do. That's what interests me. It's always been that way. I like to hear what people have to say. That's what I like. And then I like to look into it to see if what they're saying makes sense, and I can compare the two to what I'm reading and what you're saying. That's what I like doing. I mean, for instance, let's take a crazy one. Most people would say is crazy. Let's not talk about the COVID or anything like that, because I won't be able to put this on YouTube. But let's talk about something else. Let's talk about flat Earth theory. Let's talk about that. Now, someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, do you know? I was reading the other day, and I believe that the Earth is flat," and you go through the whole thing. I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but I got to tell you, first time I heard that, I didn't say it was crazy, because I thought it's kind of like religion. It's like, if this many people believe this, there's got to be something to it, right? This is not one guy holed up in his single wide making these stories up. There's actually something going on. So I looked into flat Earth theory. I did some research on it. I've read books on it. I've seen movies on it and documentaries, the whole thing. Are they crazy? I don't know. I don't know if they are or not. I've never been in space. I've never been out there. I've never been able to look down on the planet from 50,000 miles away. I've never done that. And the funny thing is, the only people that really have been involved in the military. They're part of the military. So they're kind of under an obligation to do what they're told. So I don't know. Again, flat Earth theory, is it crazy? I'm not saying it is, because some of the evidence they bring, that they give you to prove their point, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it really does. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not a believer. Don't get me wrong. Don't misquote me. I'm not a believer that the Earth is flat. All I'm saying is that I have no proof that it isn't. Okay? I really don't. And you can say, well, the scientists say the right. Well, that's true. That's true. But anyway, the point, I'm not trying to defend this. Believe me, I'm not. All I'm saying is that I looked into it. Doesn't make me a believer. And that's what I find so interesting today. People dismiss you immediately if you take the other side. If you ask a question somehow or other. For instance, I was in a discussion the other day with a person that was here in my home. We were talking about the war, or the special military operation that's going on, and I said something about Putin. I said, well, he's one of those guys you don't want to mess with, because he usually does what he says he's going to do. And the first thing out of this guy's mouth was, so you're a Putin supporter? I was like, no, I'm telling you is, everything I've read and everything I've seen leads me to believe, and I fully believe it, is that, Putin's not a bullshitter. If he says he's going to do something, he probably does it. That doesn't make me a fan of his. That just is an observation. That's something I've learned. And that's what this all boils down to. And yesterday when I talked about the mainstream media, it seems like in America today, there's no room for even asking a question. Doesn't mean I'm against you. You see what I mean? It doesn't mean that I don't believe what you're saying. And the thing is, when someone tells you, oh, you're completely full of it, that's crazy, you're stupid, well, that ends the discussion immediately. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to talk to someone who's calling them stupid. Nobody wants to do that. So we don't learn anything. Isn't that amazing? It really is. I mean, my friend and I were talking about it yesterday, actually. And I enjoy talking to him because he doesn't we don't agree on everything. We really don't. I mean, his thoughts on religion and mine are completely separate, but I respect his opinions. I do, because I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm like anybody else out here. I'm just kind of struggling along. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest problem is that we're not being given that ability to disagree and to discuss things. I mean, why are we not, and getting back to Donbas, getting back to the Russian-Ukraine issue, why are we not negotiating with this guy? Why is there not a negotiation going on right now so that we can get this thing settled? And I'll tell you why. Because NATO doesn't want it. Because without Russia, NATO doesn't exist. It's that simple. I mean, what's the big story today in America? It's we lifted the mask mandate, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, and that Biden told Obama that he's thinking about running in 2024. Not a word about negotiation. Why aren't we negotiating with this guy? You know what he wants. He's not asking for the world. He's saying, now what they're saying, if you listen to the left and the warmongers of the world, they're saying he's trying to take over the world. He wants to build back the Soviet Union. That's nonsense. He doesn't want to do that. He has the economy that's the size of Italy. Okay, you're not going to pull that off with that kind of that size of an economy. California would have more of a chance of doing that. They really would. What are they, the fifth largest economy in the world? Yeah, California might pull that. Try that, but Russia's not going to do that. He wants protection, is what he wants. He wants to feel that he's not being bullied by NATO. That's all he's asking for. And they are not going to have anything to do with it. They want endless war. This war is going to be going on, or this special military operation is going to be going on through the rest of the year. And God knows when it's going to ever end. I really don't know. And it's all about this one spot in eastern Ukraine that Putin has asked. He wants it turned over to him, basically. Donbas and another breakaway republic, which I can't remember at the moment. That's all he wants, and he wants the denazification of that area. He wants no Nazis there, and he doesn't want NATO butting up against him, which we would feel the same way if China was putting ICBMs on the Rio Grande on the Mexican side. We would be having a fit. But no one's talking about this, and I think that's a mistake. So it leads you to believe that the mainstream media and everybody wants is war. They want continuous war. That's what they want. That's all they're interested in, and it's pathetic because there are people actually dying, and that's what makes it so sad. But anyway, I don't know why it's taken me 62 years to learn all this. It really is funny. You look back at your life and you go, why didn't I know some of this stuff when I was younger, right? Why didn't I know how to look at things and how to, listen to the other side of the story? I guess it just comes with age and experience. I guess that's what it's all about. But nonetheless, that's all I got today. I hope that made some kind of sense, and I hope it enlightened you a little bit. I try to help. That's all I'm trying to do is help. I'm trying to help you think a little bit differently than what the establishment is wanting done. That's it. That's all I'm asking. So anyway, we will talk again. I will be right back with the news.
This is the Average Joe Podcast. The Average Joe Podcast.
Okay, and back with my version of what's important in the news. How about that? And it may be things you have or you have not heard. Obviously, you've heard about the mask mandates being lifted for travel in the United States. It said on Monday a federal judge put an end to the federal government's travel mask mandate, which mandated mask wearing on airplanes, buses, trains, and other forms of public transportation. This judge, Catherine Mazzelli, ruled that the Centers for Disease Control order stretched its authority beyond the law and was also arbitrary and capricious in violation of administrative law, which that in a nutshell means that the Biden administration loses once again. These guys can't get a win. They really can't. They lost with the mandate for everyone. They lost with the federal workers mandate, which they're trying to appeal, and they lost this one. It's just going away. No one cares anymore. No one cares. And what was funny, from everything I've seen on YouTube, the airlines are thrilled about this. They really are. They're tired of having to be the mask enforcers. And I agree 100%. TSA will not enforce this anymore. So that's it. It's all done. And we'll see how long it lasts, of course. And personally, I think it should be a constitutional amendment stating this, that you can't do this anymore. But that's another story completely. Another story that I wanted to talk about was that Justin Thomas returns to the bench after an illness. I think he's hearing oral arguments today, as a matter of fact. Justice Thomas, again, was sick. And believe me, people on the left, now these are people that actually went to Easter Mass yesterday, or Sunday, who call themselves Christians. I guarantee you they were hoping this guy died. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. And surprise, folks, he's not dead. So there you go. What are you going to do? He's going to be around for a while. So you're not going to have another justice you're going to be able to push through that doesn't even know how to describe what a woman is. It's so anyway, that's all on the back burner now. You're not going to get that one. Sorry, lefties. Sorry about that. He didn't die. I know you were praying for it, but he didn't. So on number 3, which I thought was hilarious, Biden has reportedly told Obama that he's running for re-election in 2024. I mean, you got to admit, that's almost a joke in itself, right? I mean, if you said that out loud, people they'd probably bust out laughing. Yeah, he's going to run. We don't even, it's so silly that you would say that. That just shows the kind of mentality we're dealing with here. This man is beyond lunatic. I mean, he really is. So, yes, he told Obama supposedly he's going to run in 2024. How about 2030? How about that? How about you run in 2030? Yeah, or 32. Look down the road. I mean, how old are you going to be, Joe? How old are you going to be? 90? You still going to run? I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. I couldn't believe that. Let's see. What was another one? Oh, yes. We talked about this. Russia's launching a full-scale offensive in eastern Ukraine. Yeah, and here's the thing, folks. That's not going to play as easily as the other one did because he's going to have all of his best stuff there. So we'll see how that plays out. Most of the time in war, you don't send your best stuff into battle immediately. You hold that back in reserve. We'll see how this all plays out. I got a feeling it's not going to go the way everybody thinks because they're already acting like he's stumped his toe and he's been embarrassed and all that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to say that. I think this was his ultimate goal anyway, was the eastern part of Russia. It was. Let's see, number 5. We got 10 Democrats joining the Republicans in opposing Biden's plan to end Title 42. They're afraid that there is going to be the border is going to be overrun if they rescind Title 42, which prevents, it gives you the tools to keep certain people from coming into the country. And everybody from the border that I've seen or has been interviewed says if they rescind this Title 42, we're going to be overrun with people. I mean, worse than we are now, right? And I don't know what the ultimate goal here is, but letting people into the United States that are going to be on the government, tit, so to speak, I don't think it's the best idea. You're not getting your best and your brightest from Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Haiti, Colombia. You're not getting the best and the brightest. You're getting basically thugs, young thugs. I don't know why we're doing this. None of this makes any sense. This administration makes no sense. So I really don't know what's going on. But you got 10 Democrats that are saying, hey, we're not on board with this. So getting this passed, I don't know that he's going to be able to pull this off in May. We'll see. It'll be another loss for the Biden administration if he can't get this pulled off, because this was one of his promises. Let's see. Oh, I love this one. And I don't know if you heard this or not, but ex-Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, I don't know if you've ever seen Jack Dorsey, but he's a weirdo. Okay, there's no getting around it. I mean, he looks like he would be the type of guy that would go to the Middle East or some foreign land in maybe South America and start his own religion. I mean, he's a lunatic. But he says that he's actually witnessed incidents where CNN tried to falsify news. I'm telling you, folks, alert the authorities. This is groundbreaking news that's going on here. Ex-Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey says that CNN lies. Imagine that. I can't believe it. Jack Dorsey should be an investigative reporter. He really should, because no one else knew this. Him saying this now makes it must be true that CNN lies. Yeah, Jack, you're a little bit behind the ball here. We've known this for 15 years at least, if not longer. So I don't know what Jack was thinking, why you would even say that. Speaking of another lunatic, Elon Musk, I've told you this before, that he's being sued in a Delaware court over a acquisition of Solar City by Tesla, and he's being sued as the CEO that this acquisition was basically illegal. And what's funny is the rest of the board members have settled this case. He's the only one holding up the deal. Okay, they sold for, I think they settled for $60 million a piece. There's like 8 of them. But apparently Elon thought he was right, so he's being sued. The actual trial is over. The judge is going to rule probably by the end of the month, and I think he's going to lose, because from everything I've seen and read on this, I've actually seen the transcripts. I've had people explain the transcripts of what's going on. He was the CEO of both these companies. Okay, he's the CEO of Tesla. He's the CEO of Solar City. Solar City is actually run by some of his cousins, and they came up with this idea to it's a long story, but it has to do with solar power. Then Tesla, it started losing money. I mean, it was losing huge amounts of money. So they decided they had to do something. They needed to either get a loan or they needed to be sold. And this is very remedial the way I'm putting this, because I don't know a lot about this type of business transactions. I'm no expert on this, but ultimately Tesla bought Solar City for $26 billion, and he orchestrated the deal, which you can't do if you're the CEO of both companies. So these investors are suing him, saying, "Hey, if you hadn't done that, we would have made more money." It's a lot of institutional investors, people with retirement funds that they work for. They're saying this is a bunch of crap, and they sued him. And they're saying, now I couldn't believe this. They're saying that he may be on the hook for $14.5 billion if he loses this. Now that's on the high end. That's based on the difference between what the stock was selling for at the time of the sale as opposed to what it's selling for now. There's a lot that goes into this, but $14.5 billion. I think that's going to affect his bottom line. And I know he's got billions. There's no doubt about it. But it's not like you got billions in the bank. You're going to have to sell something in order to pay this fine or this loss. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. Another story is a poll finds that Republicans see Joe Biden as being more harmful to the world than Vladimir Putin. That's what Republicans say. Yeah. They say that the world would be a better place. 83% of them said the world would be a better place without Putin, which I don't disagree with. But here's the interesting thing. 84% of them said it'd be a better place without Biden. I mean, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's hilarious. That cracks me up. When it comes to Republicans, Putin actually takes a higher place in the hierarchy than Biden does. So I think the world would be a better place without either one of them. But I don't know that. I don't know enough about Russian politics. It may be better that Putin's there, because the last thing you want is a vacuum in a country like that. So I don't know about that, but I just thought that was funny. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was epic. This was a guy. I guess a guy tweeted this out that right after the mask mandate was lifted, he said that he was on a plane. Now, whether or not he was or not, I don't know for a fact. His name was Jared Rebel. Anyway, he tweeted out that he was on a plane with him and his son, and it was a sarcastic. He was making fun of the whole situation. He said they lifted the mask mandate while we were in the air. And he said immediately the flight crew and the flight attendants took their masks off, sneezed in their hands, and yelled at the top of their lungs, "This is MAGA airspace." Okay? He was making a joke. He was... I mean, I read that and I thought, well, that's pretty funny. And what happened was that tweet went viral. They thought he was telling the truth. So later on in another tweet, he said, my son who was with me has been traumatized, and I'm going to start a fund for his legal costs, because we're going to sue the airline for this, because he's been so affected by this. And it was all a joke. It was all a joke. And the funny part is, he actually got contacted by a journalist from the New York Times, who said that she would do everything in her power to help him in his lawsuit against the airline. He basically trolled them, and they fell for a hook, line, and sinker. I couldn't believe that. Yeah, he couldn't either. He said, I just tweeted this out. He said I was just being a smart ass. And just kind of like a Saturday Night Live skit, basically. And these people are so bereft of a sense of humor, they didn't even get it. They actually went on the offensive to try to help him out. That's what the New York Times is all about anymore. They're not about the truth. They're about, you're not listening to me and you don't believe what I believe, so we're going to go after you. That's exactly what they did. There was another story about a journalist who is doxing someone, and it backfired on her. This is the New York Times. The New York Times is doing this. This is what their journalists are doing. And they're usually young, the ones doing this. I don't know if they have any, self-worth or what it is. What is it about these people who are in their late 20s, early 30s? Somehow or other, they think this is the way to go. You would never see a guy with gray hair doing this. A journalist that's been around the block a time or two. He wouldn't do that. These are all young people doing this. I just thought it was hilarious. Speaking of that, YouTube decided to remove, I don't know if you saw this Tucker Carlson interview. He was interviewing a woman who had been detransitioned, okay? In other words, she had said she was going to be a man. She was like 23 right now. I think when she was 19, she started this process, which is understandable. It's been 3 years ago. I can fully understand where you would be caught up in this. But anyway, she says that it was not the thing for her, and it's a mistake, and go down the list. She's not a big fan of it. She's back to being a woman. She's thrilled about it. And Tucker was just asking questions, and she was explaining the process and why she did what she did, how when she was younger and she was in her teens, she felt bad about her body. She felt that, go down the list. It's what every person in America deals with. Every person in the world. When you're a teenager, you have these problems. You have these feelings of inadequacy. Everyone does. If you haven't had those, then you're not human, because everybody's done that in their teens. Everybody feels that way. That doesn't mean you should switch over to the other sex. And what she's saying is that, having breast implants, having the surgery, taking the hormones, it's harmful to these kids. It is. And she said she got away without being injured permanently, but psychologically she's got a little, it hurt her. It did. And she was just saying that that's probably not the healthiest thing for everyone. So anyway, YouTube decides, hey, we're gonna remove that Tucker Carlson interview from YouTube platform, right? We're going to get rid of it because it violates our TOS, our terms of service. Now, it violated their terms of service by being, it violated their spam policy, okay? It said it was deceptive, it had deceptive practices, and scams. It was a scam. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but that's a stretch, if you ask me. So that's YouTube for you. And that's free speech in America as it is today if it's on the mainstream platforms. Yeah. They can use anything. I've had it done to me twice. They can use anything at their disposal. They can make it up as they go, and they can take you off. And people will say, well, it's a public, it's privately owned company. They can do what they want. Yeah, well, not exactly, because if you think about it, how would you feel if you were talking about something on your cell phone, for instance, to a friend of yours, and it didn't quite fit into the thoughts of AT&T, and AT&T just cut your service, okay? Suddenly I can't talk to my friend about what I want, about something that's private. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They can't do that, in my opinion. That should be illegal. Now, if you're talking about murdering someone, or child pornography, there are certain things you shouldn't be able to say. But if it's just a free discussion about ideas, you can't. If your cell phone company came to you and told you that, what would you think? You'd be furious. What if your internet provider to your home said, "Hey, you can have internet, but you can't talk about these things, or you can't look at these things. Otherwise, you can't have service." It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So YouTube, this is going to come down and hurt YouTube at some point. It really will. It's hurting. This kind of thought process is hurting Disney already. This go woke, get woke, go broke philosophy is not going to play. It's just not. But I just thought that was interesting because it's Tucker Carlson, for God's sakes. I mean, wouldn't you want him on your platform? Of course you would. But God forbid he talk about something that they don't agree with, and so we'll take him down. It's that simple. If you don't, you have to think right, or you can't be on our platform. Simple as that. Anyway, that's all I got today, and I appreciate you listening. And we will talk again tomorrow, and it is April 19th, and Joe Biden is the worst president in American history. Let's go, Brandon.
As always, thanks for listening to the Average Joe podcast. Be sure to check out our website at www.averagejoenation.media and follow us on social media. Remember, if you haven't told all your friends, you're wrong.